Labrīt, dāmas un kungi.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Minister. Welcome to the Information Day of the Innovation Fund, organized with the support of the Commission Representation Office in Latvia, the Ministry of Climate and Energy, LIA, and the Confederation of Employers of Latvia. This event will take place both online and on the site, so you can follow us on YouTube and also on the Facebook page of the ministry. I am Olga Bogdanova, as Deputy State Secretary of the Ministry of Energy and Environment, and I am responsible for international policy matters. Our fund has been working since 2021, and every year we receive many project applications. Currently, more than 15 billion euro have been granted to companies, but in Latvia, only one has reached the final stage, and last year, 2 have been highly assessed. And this is the reason why we are here, to understand how our companies can submit successful bids, to understand how this fund can support our competitiveness, at the same time using climate neutrality potential. So I invite you to listen carefully, ask questions. You can ask questions here in person or online, and also ask questions online by writing comments underneath the respective online link. And now I would like to give the floor for the introductory address. Economic advisor to the Commission Representation Office in Latvia, Signe Groze. Good morning, Mr. Minister, colleagues, representatives of companies, project promoters, and those who draft the projects. I'm very happy that there are so many of you here. Innovation Fund is one of the largest such instruments to implement zero-emission innovative technologies. So far, in the entire Europe, this fund has supported more than 270 projects for 15.6 billion euro. Project tenders take place every year, and the total of financing available is 5.2 billion euro just this year. The fund supports projects in energy efficient industry, production of renewables, storage, hydrogen technologies, mobility, also support to housing sector, and CO2 capture and storage. Financing is granted to projects with high innovation potential and a significant contribution to reduction of GHG emissions. We invite the operators to actively participate to receive this financing, and also to find out about specific criteria for the use of this fund. If you say that innovations come from ideas and sometimes only just due to forgetting to wash laboratory vessels, for example, like penicillin was discovered. But unfortunately, nowadays it is not so easy. Excel sheets still need to be filled in, and you really need to pay a lot of attention to how you prepare these applications, how you create concepts, and so on. It will be very important for the next multi-annual plan, because the Commission has proposed very competitive financing for the competition fund, and that also includes Horizon Europe. And this fund will mean that there will be unprecedented EU budgetary support for research, innovation, development, and also expansion of various innovative products and their production. The greenest energy is energy saved. And let us proceed with our agenda. And I'm happy to welcome Mr. Melnis, the minister, here. And in particular, I would like to express gratitude to the Ministry of Climate and Energy and colleagues from the ministry, Lelde and others. Thank you, Signe. And now I would like to give the floor to the minister. Good morning. Thank you for this event for today. Thank you to the entrepreneurs who dream and do, because we know that if you don't go forward, you lag behind because others will not wait. By learning about innovation, you not only become better yourself, but you also encourage others. The level of innovation is, or the ambition of innovation is very high. Some initial ideas seem quite crazy, but then we have companies, entrepreneurs who are ready to risk, who are not afraid of the criticism, but we still are not afraid, and we go ahead. Today, we each choose whether we want to live in the past, in the present, or in the future by making respective decisions. Thank you for this seminar. I hope that you will have many questions that will help you implement your dreams. And I hope that the projects will not only be found good, but also will be awarded financing just to demonstrate that we are good. Because there is still a possibility for us to be able to submit successful applications, and I hope that some of you will be like that, and you will demonstrate to others that we can, because we have wonderful companies with wonderful ideas, continue to inspire us, because we can do a lot in Latvia. Thank you for this address, and now I would like to give the floor to Pauline Brezisk, the head of the European Investment Bank in Latvia. Thank you. Good morning.
Be here this morning to welcome you to the Innovation Fund Information Day, and thank you so much to our partners and organizers, the Ministry of Climate and Energy, the European Commission, and thank you very much all for being here. We are really at full capacity today. I know there are also many joining online, and I think this is a fantastic sign showing the strong momentum in Latvia's innovation and clean tech community, which I am very happy to see. I am the head of the European Investment Bank Group office here in Riga, a role that was made possible thanks to the opening of the office just earlier last year. And what a year it has already been. As some of you may have seen in the press release that came out just 2 days ago, the EIB Group recorded a record year in Latvia. We have financed 381 million euros in projects, which corresponds to 0.9%, almost 1% of Latvia's GDP. This is an exceptional milestone which underlines our partnership with Latvia, as well as the scale of Latvia's ambitions in energy, infrastructure, innovation, and sustainable development. But today is all about the Innovation Fund, one of the world's largest funding programs for deploying net zero and breakthrough technologies. This fund is a major opportunity for Latvia, not only for industry leaders, but also for innovators, researchers, municipalities, scale-ups, and new ventures. The potential is really huge, from carbon capture, hydrogen, to energy-intensive industry, transformation, renewables, storage solutions, and so forth. I want to thank all the experts that are with us here today and that will explain how the fund works, what is the structure of the calls, and how Latvia's projects can be successful. As you will find out today, the European Investment Bank is a strong element of the Innovation Fund structure. Many of the projects actually proceed to receive advisory support or so-called PDA, project development assistance from the EIB colleagues, and as a result also end up becoming large, bankable EIB operations. And I hope that many or some of you that are here today will reach this milestone and we will be able to organize a signing ceremony with some of you for an EIB loan. But let me just underline that the EIB is more than just the Innovation Fund. We work across all elements of innovation. And as an example, tomorrow with our partner LIA, we are organizing a workshop with startups to understand how we can boost the innovation ecosystem here in Latvia. So as we look ahead, I would like to encourage all of you, whether you are just developing your first idea or already scaling up, to reach out to us, to reach out to the colleagues that are presenting today, and to approach the European Investment Bank with your projects. We are open for business, and I'm really happy that we have gathered here today. With this, I wish you a successful, informative day and all the success with your applications for the Innovation Fund. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paulina. Un tagad es gribētu aicināt arī
And now I would like to give the floor to the Export and Innovation Services Department, Deputy Head from this department, Vita Baloda Andersa.
Labrīt.
I'm very happy to see you here in the EC Innovation Fund Information Day. In this format, we have been operating for 2 years. This year, the interest was so great that 1 week before the event, we had to close the possibility to register. And I hope that many colleagues have joined us online. Innovation Fund is one of the largest funds in the world. Approximately 40 billion will be paid out within 10 years. That's one annual GDP of Latvia. The fund supports renewables production and storage, mobility, CO2, various solutions, hydrogen solutions, and so on. I know that companies are already working on this. They are trying to implement sustainable solutions. And this will support our competitiveness in the future. I don't have to persuade you that these are not costs. These are investments that will pay back at least threefold. Last year, I had 8 projects submitted applications. So not everyone was successful. But I understand that if you submit your project for the first time, it's quite difficult to succeed. As LIA, this year we participate to support you because the competition is quite severe. We have set up a special program for companies that want to apply. The total budget is 842,000 euros. I hope that together we will succeed better, and would like to invite all those who applied last year to return and to work with us to succeed. We need champions, we need billion turnover companies, so we need at least three companies that succeed from Latvia. This could be our target. And by 2040, they could reach at least a 3 billion turnover and 3 billion market value and at least 10,000 jobs in the entire world. What about this challenge? 3 projects. I think we can do that. And I wish you a very fruitful and inspiring day. Thank you. And now the floor goes to businesses. Kaspars Gorkš, the General Director of the Latvian Confederation of Employers. Good morning, dear participants, Mr. Minister, entrepreneurs. Having listened to these introductory speeches, we heard a lot about competition, champions being able to compete with the best, and we are just a few weeks before the opening of the Olympic Games, and we should not only participate but also win. For my entire life, I have had the privilege to be among ambitious and very well motivated people, first in the sports, and now we also in our confederation we represent ambitious companies that want to compete on international scale. So for us, this is not just about one project, but about the ability of Latvian companies to compete in the European scale, to improve competitiveness, increase production, improve products, and also to come up with new interesting things. And considering that this envelope will be quite competitive, especially will need to compete with other EU countries, so this ambition should transfer the DNA of each company. I would like to say thank you to the cooperation partners, because without participation and involvement of partners, we could not speak about improving competitiveness for the Latvian companies. We wish to see that Latvian companies are using not only specific instruments, but are also participating to use various projects and products that can be used in turn by others. We want to see cooperation success and also celebrate not only the success of our athletes, but also the success of our companies. I wish you a very productive, cooperative day. Thank you to Kaspars. And now I would like to invite the presenters for a family photo.
For the reports? So, liels paldies par pateicību.
Thank you very much for your patience. We are continuing with the event. And today's event is going to be split into two parts. We're going to have a couple of reports, several reports and lectures from European Commission, from LIA agency, and also there will be many speakers who are going to go into detail about various aspects, how to prepare also how to submit the applications, and for all of us to know what are the main challenges, maybe for some to actually get the idea why maybe previously their applications were not successful. But we're going to work approximately until 11:15, when we're going to have a coffee break, and I am inviting you to use those present, the coffee break, as the possibility also to network, ask questions, speak to our guests. They are really knowledgeable and they can also give you valuable advice. And not everybody would like to also ask questions on the microphone. So at the end of the event, you are going to have an opportunity to use individual consulting. Not everybody will be able to participate, but only those who applied previously. And nevertheless, we do hope that this consultation is going to be very valuable and productive. Now let us move on, and I would like to invite on stage DG Klima, European Commission Infrastructure and Environment, SINEA, Executive Agency presentation. We are going to demonstrate now. So I invite on stage, and you will be able to tell a couple of words about the presentation yourself, about the contents of it, and what is going to be the order of the presentations. We have Policy Officer Roman Steele, Maria Jesus Beas, Financial Engineer from SINEA, and Kristīna Bitnere, who is Project Consultant from SINEA too.
Here in Latvia, when I was looking at which Innovation Fund info days to go to across Europe, I looked at Latvia and I said, this is a country where people are interested. We're receiving good proposals. There's a lot of interest in the Innovation Fund. Unfortunately, only one successful project so far. So this is a country where we can make a real difference. So I'm excited to be here. And that's also why we have three colleagues here from Brussels, from both the Directorate General for Climate Action, DG Klima. We work at the policy level of the Innovation Fund, as well as the implementation agency, SINEA, and two colleagues as well from the EIB who will present about the project development assistance, which are free consulting services provided by funds from the Innovation Fund to help projects like those in Latvia to get funded in the Innovation Fund. So we're really making a commitment to try and help Latvia improve its success rate in the fund. Just a disclaimer, we always have to start with some legalese. We will do our best. You have the three of us experts here to try and present the Innovation Fund information accurately. But there may be conflicts between what we say and what is found in the official call text or the published information, the published frequently asked questions. If there is a conflict in that information, you must always trust the published information, and anything we say today is not of a binding nature. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? First, I'm going to give an overview of the Innovation Fund, why it exists, a little bit of the history, and then we're going to talk about the Net Zero Technologies Call, which is the classic grants that you expect when you hear of the Innovation Fund. So this is where you can apply, you need to demonstrate that your project is innovative and maybe receive a grant. But we have two other instruments as part of the Innovation Fund. One supports the decarbonisation of hydrogen production, and the other is for decarbonisation of industrial process heat. So we'll also speak about those two instruments today. A little bit of a background on the Innovation Fund. You've heard this headline number of 40 billion euros. So the Innovation Fund was created with revenues from the emissions trading scheme. So a small part, around 6% of the money that goes into the emissions trading, so when companies emit carbon dioxide, gets recycled through the Innovation Fund. It's a 40 billion euro fund. About 12 billion has been committed to an instrument called REPowerEU, which is helping green the energy grid, including here in Latvia. And another 16 billion has been already awarded to companies across Europe. We started with two calls, the small and large scale calls, in the first 3 years up until 2022. And then from 2023, we introduced two new instruments. One was a clean tech manufacturing topic. So this is really focusing on European competitiveness in industrial manufacturing, the technologies of tomorrow, whether that be wind turbines, heat pumps, or electrolyzers or the like, as well as a specific instrument that I mentioned for hydrogen production, which this year is in its third year. And as I mentioned, we also, for the first time this year, have a new auction for industrial heat decarbonisation. So, an overview of the fund so far. We have 276 projects which have been invited to sign grant agreements or are ongoing. That's 15.8 billion euros allocated across 28 countries, including Latvia, and those projects are expected to result in more than 1,000 megatons of CO2 being avoided in their 10 years of operation. A little slide on the geographical balance of the fund. Obviously, Latvia down towards the tail end, and that's why you see such dedication from us here to try and improve the success rate in Latvia. Countries, you can imagine that the bigger economies obviously have been more successful in the Innovation Fund to date, but we also see that countries which have invested particularly in significant renewable energy, such as Spain and in the Scandinavian countries, also have a higher success rate. So countries which have a lower proportion of proposals relative to the size of their economy do receive this additional assistance, including Latvia. In terms of the sectors we support, we saw some really interesting proposals from Latvia in the biomass industry, electricity generation, also hydrogen and cement industries. But the support from the Innovation Fund can go across a really wide range of sectors. So obviously we have the most projects in the hydrogen sector as well as cement industry, but we have a very growing share of manufacturing projects, given the dedicated dedicated topic, I should say, for manufacturing. It does seem from this graph that we don't have many mobility projects, but that's a little bit of a misconception, because much of the support to the mobility sector, maritime, aviation, and road transport is in the form of subsidising green fuels, whether that's biofuels, synthetic e-fuels. And so when you consider all of our investments in fuels projects, which sit under other here or under refineries, about one third of the budget of the Innovation Fund has been dedicated to mobility projects. And this is why we're here today. Obviously, we've only had one project in Latvia, robotic repair project, which focuses on the repair of wind turbines, and we look to increase that success in the future. There's been 6% of Latvian projects have received funding from the Innovation Fund, but we have a quality seal, which is called the STEP seal, and this is received by all projects which meet our minimum thresholds, but may not necessarily be funded. They receive a STEP quality seal, and this is a seal of excellence provided at a European level, which makes projects more likely to be funded by other European and national funding instruments. And I just really want to stress, whilst the Innovation Fund as a whole is difficult to apply to, I think the success rate overall is about 15% of proposals. For small projects, those projects under 20 million euros in capex, you can apply to the small scale topic, and there is a 100% success rate for projects meeting the minimum threshold. So if you can show us sufficient level of innovation, sufficient financial maturity, technical maturity, meet our minimum thresholds, you are almost guaranteed of being funded, because that call has traditionally, we can't guarantee it for this year, but in 23 and 2024, it was undersubscribed. So if you are an SME in Latvia, for example, and we'll mention also the bonus point which exists for SMEs, if you can apply under 20 million euros in capex, the call is undersubscribed, and so we really want to hear from you. And I think this is a really great opportunity for Latvia to boost its success in the Innovation Fund. Okay, so I mentioned we're going to speak about 3 calls today. The grants call is the NZT call, the one there on the right, which has a budget of 2.9 billion euros this year. That is a call where we measure projects against each other on 5 criteria. The first is the degree of innovation. So how innovative is the project? How does it change from what has been done before? The second is on the maturity of the project. The third is on replicability of the project, also on the cost efficiency, so how much emissions can be saved relative to the cost of the project, and finally on the quantum of the greenhouse gas emissions that are being claimed. So that is a call which is looking for innovative projects. The other 2 calls, we purely look at the cost efficiency of the project. So how much hydrogen on one hand, and how much industrial heat can we produce for the minimum subsidy, the minimum grant. And projects are ranked purely on that auction price. So these 2 calls, the ones in purple, are really geared towards technologies which are more mature, so we don't want to be ranking or comparing projects based on their level of innovation, but purely on how much subsidy they need. So if you are, for example, someone in the glass industry, someone in the food and beverage industry, and you are currently using fossil fuels for example, in your gas-fired boiler or something like that, you can apply, as long as it's above 3 megawatts, to have a subsidy under the industrial heat auction, for example. For more information, we're going to present a lot of information today, but not the full amount. There was a full day on the NZT call and 2 half days on the heat auction and the hydrogen auction. So if you want information, you can find recordings and presentations at these links, as well as questions and answers. And there's also a link here to the funding and tenders portal, which is where you submit your application. And I think that's it for me, and I hand over to my colleagues to present the detail.
Thank you. Labdien, mani sauc Kristīna Bitnere, bet tā kā...
Hello, my name is Kristīna Bitnere, and as I have colleagues from European Commission, I will present in English.
So I'm working for the Climate and Energy Agency, CINEA, which is the European Commission's agency. And we are responsible for, there is a whole unit together with financial engineers presented by Maria Jesus. And we are responsible for implementing the Innovation Fund, funding provided by, and political guidance provided by DG Klimata. And today I'm here to present to you how the Innovation Fund is working. Me, myself, I'm a project advisor, so I'm responsible for advising those projects that succeeded in getting the funding from the Innovation Fund in implementing them, reaching financial close, entering into operation, and afterwards reporting on the years of operation. I'm also responsible for project evaluation. I'm the one that is moderating experts. For you to take this fund seriously, and when you write your project, every page is scrutinized by a number of experts. First of all, we have GHE experts that does the assessment of your GHE calculations. They have a very strong background in GHE analysis. They go through your Excel sheets of GHE calculations, and they make sure that they are correct. They will notice every little mistake that have been made in your Excel sheet. Secondly, I manage a technical and financial panel, together with an expert a colleague from a financing team. And there are two technical experts, which are responsible for scrutinizing your technical description, innovation and operation, as well as replicability. They scrutinize every page of your proposal. They are experts in your area. They know as much as you know, and even more than you, about the sector where you apply. So that's why when you write the proposal, you have to be very detail-orientated, thinking that you apply for someone that is peer-to-peer, like you would talk to someone who is as good knowing in your industry as you know, and maybe even better. There are also financial aspects, very strong financial maturity aspects, and you will see that very often Innovation Fund project proposals, they fail on financial maturity. Today we have here Maria Jesus. Please take her advice very seriously, because you will need that. So, thank you, Rowan, for the introduction already into the NZT call. And here we have the main topics of the NZT call. You will see large scale, medium scale, small scale, clean tech, and pilot projects. We noted that there were, out of those projects that succeeded over the admissibility and eligibility, I forgot about admissibility and eligibility. There are several Latvian projects that applied for the Innovation Fund, but they failed the very first step, admissibility and eligibility. This means that those proposals didn't follow the templates, that the proposals that they wrote were written in a bad form, they were not readable, they did not contain the basic information. Don't waste your time if you don't follow the templates. If you cannot present good information, just don't waste your time. So the first topic that many of Latvian LSO companies applied was the large-scale proposal, a large-scale topic. There where the capex of the project should be above 100 million. And you see that the total budget of the topic is 1.2 million. For such a big project, there's not so much funding. And therefore, the competition is extremely big. You have to score very high on all the criterions. And you have to aim to get all the bonus points, at least 2 out of 3. And we noted that last year projects applied, but they didn't aim, for example, to get the bonus point. It is very important. Competition is really fierce there. I really advise Latvian companies to apply for medium-scale and small-scale projects. It is relatively good funding for the Latvian economy size businesses. The competition is smaller there. In medium scale, the competition has picked up, and I really would advise also getting bonus points and scoring quite high. Clean tech manufacturing. I have also one project in clean tech manufacturing that I'm managing, very innovative, successful startup that started producing stocks for biogas production companies. This is also one of the robotic repair Latvian companies where succeeded. Also learn from them and try to apply. Pilot projects is also a smaller competition. Maybe a bit less of interesting, but those companies that are interested in validating, testing, and optimizing highly innovative technologies, we would really suggest applying. Rowan already mentioned the criterions that we apply for evaluation of the Innovation Fund project proposals. You will see here degree of innovation, GHG avoidance potential, project maturity, replicability, and cost efficiency. In my presentation, I will cover all the criterions except for financial maturity, which is under project maturity, and Maria Jesus will cover the cost efficiency. We also have bonus points, net carbon removals, and this year we have a new bonus point for the projects which are coordinated by SMEs, and we have also a bonus point for marine sector project. And here there's an update about what are the limited few changes that we have in this call compared to the previous call. So we will have a new aspect that will be also evaluated, do not significant harm compliance, and Rowan will cover that. We have new changes in the eligibility criterion for manufacturing of EV batteries, which are now eligible. And we have also new aspects in relation to hydrogen. Hydrogen production projects are eligible for the Innovation Fund, but they are excluded from large and medium-scale manufacturing project topics. And we also, as I mentioned, the changes in the bonus point. Now we have a specific bonus point for projects which are coordinated by the small-scale projects. And they are through refinements and clarifications to improve to really clarify what we are funding regarding replicability. Also, extremely important, this year, DG Klimata decided to promote, really enable the national contact points to support the project proposals. So you also have in Latvia a national contact point, which I understand is in the Ministry of Climate and Energy. This national contact point this year, or maybe have already received a lot of information to support the project proposals, to support in writing the proposals, to assess their financial maturity, to assess their GHG emission performance. So I really advise you to go to your national contact point and ask for this information. Maybe you are planning to disseminate it. Or maybe it's managed by LIA, but they have received, we specifically created a special tender for a consultancy that would support the national contact points. Your national contact point should be able to support you with additional information. And of course, there is also self-check questionnaire, which you can fill in order to check how you comply with the criterions. It's very general. Here, this is the list of indicating mandatory documentation for NZT call. First is application form A, which provides basic information. Application form B is the most important document. Part C, it would be great that you make sure that there are no mistakes. Very often you indicate one information regarding your business plan in your financial plan and then something else in KPIs. Make sure, double check that this information is harmonized. And there's a list of mandatory annexes and supporting documents. So when you submit your proposal, end of the deadline, at SINEA, we start checking the proposals. First thing what we go do during the admissibility and eligibility phase, we go and screen if you have all the list of mandatory annexes. If you don't have at least one document listed there, we stop evaluation. You are out. We don't care how great is your proposal, how great is your innovation, how much GHG emissions you save. Simply you didn't submit one of the important annexes. That's it for you. There were several proposals from Latvia that failed at admissibility and eligibility last year. Here you have a guideline on how to apply. There is a lot of information on Climate and Energy's website under Innovation Fund, lots of links about guidelines, where to get what. And of course, you have to always go through the European Commission's funding and tenders portal in order to officially submit your application. There is no other way. And follow the guideline. And also, if you would like to have additional information on presentations, for example, you can again listen to the recording of the official info day that happened last year at the end of the year. If you have questions, about your project. You have some issues, you are not sure about what additional information you should give to the technical maturity. You have questions on GHG, please write to the help desk. Our Innovation Fund help desk is not a black box where you just you send and your email disappears. Behind help desk, it's me, many of our colleagues, actual project advisors that scrutinize every question and we respond to you. We actually want to help you, to enable you to write the proposal correctly. So your question will be treated properly and we will provide you an answer. Not right away, not next day. Sometimes it takes time to respond. Sometimes we have to even consult of our technical experts that we are contracting, but it will be responded because it is in our interest to treat every question carefully and respond it. And here is the cascade approach to the project evaluation. First, as I mentioned, we check eligibility and admissibility. If your project is not in the European Union or economic zone, you cannot apply, it will be out. And if you don't have mandatory annexes, you are out. If you don't have if you don't meet the basic standards regarding the timelines for financial close, enter into operation, you are out right away. Then then the evaluation phase comes in, and we evaluate the degree of innovation. If you succeed in degree of innovation, we continue the evaluation to the GHG emission avoidance, where we scrutinize your GHG emission calculations. If you succeed there, we continue to the next criterion. If you fail in degree of innovation, your score is lower than 9, we stop the evaluation. We don't care how much you save GHG emissions. We stop the evaluation. That's the approach and rule of the Innovation Fund. And also, if you fail in project maturity, we also stop evaluation and we don't go to the cost efficiency and we don't evaluate the replicability. These are the rules. This is the timeline for your proposals and evaluation. So we announced the call on the 4th December. We will close the call on 23rd April. Between April and October, this will be the evaluation phase. We start with admissibility, eligibility. This way we filter the projects that didn't apply. Then we go to the GHG evaluation. We have GHG experts that evaluate solely your GHG calculations. And then we have technical and financial experts that evaluate your technical maturity, operational maturity, financial maturity, replicability, and innovation, as well as cost efficiency. At the end of 2026, you should find out the results. Normally, it's beginning of October. And then those projects that succeeded, we start preparing with them the grant agreement. During this period, what is the grant agreement? During this period, we solve the issues that you failed at. If, for example, your project received the evaluation summary report, in this report, the experts indicated that, for example, your technical maturity, some aspects were not well described. There were some issues in financial maturity. During this time, we ask you to solve them. If you are not able to solve them, we don't sign grant agreement. Usually we manage to sign. It's there are very few cases that we don't sign the grant agreements if the project is responsive. And then in March, we signed the grant agreement. Now, I wanted to also recap a bit on the lessons learned from the last call. Here you can see that we received 359 proposals and 291 passed admissibility and eligibility. There were 100 resubmissions. And in the end, we invited 61 projects for grant agreement preparation. So you see that 55% of all the evaluated proposals passed the evaluation criteria. But if you pass the evaluation criteria, it doesn't mean that you get the funding, because your score might be low. You might pass the general threshold, but the score is low. So that's why it's important that you focus on really scoring high on innovation and getting bonus points, scoring high on technical maturity, financial maturity. And here I wanted to generally indicate the failure rate per criterion for those that passed the admissibility and eligibility and were evaluated. You see that financial maturity is statistically the highest, the criterion where projects fail the most. Partially, it might be the case that there are also projects, startups, or projects that simply don't pay attention well enough to the details on how they are calculating, how they are doing their financial model, or their financial maturity is not there yet. And here now I will quickly go through the criterions. If we are okay. So innovation, degree of innovation. The degree of innovation you indicate in the part B application, and there is a section, special section on degree of innovation, where you have to indicate the state of art and innovation beyond the state of art. You don't have to invent the wheel from again often. Very often the projects in terms of the innovation, this I better show. It's great that you have the innovation is intermediate or strong. You can also succeed. Often it's important that your project shows how you bring even well-known technologies all together that improves the efficiency of the plant, reduces greenhouse gas emissions. For example, I have a project in Poland, a biogas producer. Nothing new in biomethane production, right? We all know how to produce biogas nowadays, but they have brought some well-known technologies on improving their processes. And this scored their project quite high on innovation. For example, CO2 utilization, capturing CO2 and then selling CO2 to a plant that is utilizing it for other purposes. So it's important that your project scores higher than incremental. Right, I forgot to mention for small-scale projects. For small, if you apply in a small-scale topic, the innovation will be evaluated not at the European level, but at the national level. So there, for example, you have to innovate at Latvian level. If you have a new plant, which is maybe technology is well established in Europe and proved already, but you are bringing it to Latvia and it's new to Latvia, this scores high at the Latvian level in small-scale topic. And here I wanted to indicate that it's important really that you compare your innovation to other innovation fund projects already running. We have seen that also Latvian proposals have failed at doing that. And there is Innovation Fund project portfolio dashboard where you can easily find the projects in your sector, which project fact sheets providing descriptions. You can go to the project website because it's mandatory for every project to have a project website, do additional research and compare your project. Mention it in the innovation criterion description and compare it so that you indicate what technology is new or it's similar. Yes, I mentioned already that for small-scale projects, the innovation has to be at the Latvian level, at the national level. Some lessons learned here indicating, again, focusing on this criterion because I noted that some Latvian companies, Latvian proposals scored quite low. On this factor, if your TRL is not so high, for example, for a technology that you are applying in Latvia, it's important that you provide evidence that this technology has been tested, proved at a pilot project somewhere, and there can be business out of this technology, that it will run and economically and there will be commercial outcome of that. Now, GHG emission avoidance. You have a lot of guidance on GHG emission calculations. As far as noted that Latvian proposals were good at calculating GHG emissions, they didn't fail on this factor, but I really always emphasize, please follow the guidelines, indicate correct reference scenario, identify your reference scenario correctly, calculate your GHG emissions per reference scenario, follow the methodology for that reference scenario, and please, the next point is on the bonus points. Please apply for the bonus point. It's really crucial. For one of the Latvian projects, I evaluated it myself. I went back at GHE methodology looking, did maybe technical, maybe experts miss the bonus points, but no, they simply didn't apply. So it wasn't succeeding in scoring high in total, in comparison with other project proposals. Now, technical maturity. This is also from technical perspective, where you explain how technically mature is your technology. You describe, and for this aspect, there is a feasibility study, which is a mandatory annex. Some proposals don't follow the template that is indicated. It makes it harder for them to compete. So there is a special template for that. Please follow and indicate all the information that is required in the template. Always follow also the page limit, and any due diligence report that is there, it would be also important to have. Here, yes, we briefly described the technical maturity, how proven it is at the pilot scale, has there been basic engineering principles followed, and how well you describe that. Once again, I emphasize, it's not a scientist that is reading your project. We have, in my panel, I have experts that build plants themselves. So they know the project, they know what is feasibility study, how to do basic engineering principles for your project. They are specifically selected technical experts that know your area to the detail, to the point that how to build the plant. So it's important that you really take it seriously, how you describe and how you follow the requirements. It's very important to have the risk analysis and management. We fail projects on that. If you don't have proper risk analysis, you receive significant weakness and your project will fail. Always analyze your risks, mitigate your risks, describe well that mitigation measures. Financial maturity. Well, yeah.
I just wanted to remind that that there is a possibility to ask questions. Tātad atgādinājums, ka ir iespēja uzdot.
Please remember that it is possible to ask questions. We will listen to all the presentations, and then we'll have a Q&A session. And also our online viewers can ask questions. Please write in comments, and we will convey them to our presenters.
Indeed, please feel free to ask questions, and I will go high level, into financial maturity, and I'll be happy to take specific questions then in the Q&A slot that we have. My name is Maria Jesus Baez. I'm a part of the financial engineering team in CINEA, and I work very closely with Christine and colleagues in following the projects throughout the life cycle. I'm also very happy to have in my portfolio robotic repair, the Latvian project. Okay, so financial maturity, we always start defining what do external experts really assess when evaluating financial maturity. Basically, it is the ability of the project to reach financial close latest 4 years after grant agreement signature. But what does this mean? Okay, it's very important that we all remember the definition of financial close from the Innovation Fund is well beyond FID. It's actually having all of the contracts, financing contracts, equipment contracts, offtake contracts, O&M contracts, depending on the project, by financial close, and all of the conditions of the contracts fulfilled. So this is what projects need to substantiate in the proposal and include evidence, to actually evidence that the project will be able to reach financial close latest 4 years after grant agreement signature. This is what experts evaluate, basically. So it's very important that applicants convince the experts in their application and all of the annexes that this is possible. The sooner the projects can reach financial close, the higher the score in financial maturity. Experts evaluate financial maturity by looking into 3 main elements that you can see in the slide. And which are the parts of the proposal that applicants need to completely deliver and fill in. First, the business plan mandatory annex, okay? You know, our template, which is available in our portal, is not mandatory, but it's highly recommended that applicants follow it because it has all of the elements that experts look at. Then application form part B, the financial maturity section 4.2. Again, there is a description in the financial maturity section that includes all of the elements that the projects need to describe. And experts look very much detail that each element is described. If something is missing, the project may fail, or for sure it will receive lower score than others. Then the financial information file, there is a mandatory annex, an Excel file, that is very important that it's completely filled and following the relevant cost methodology guidance. It also has to be aligned with the descriptions in the other application documents and the annexes. Then your detailed financial model. So this is another Excel, which is mandatory, which goes in much more detail about the financial data of the project. Then regarding the mandatory annexes, okay? As I was saying, the experts not only look at the descriptions in Part B and the business plan annex, but also they look importantly at the evidence, okay? So we have in Annex 3 of the call text the description of what external experts will look at in terms of project shareholders' financial resources, okay, the financial statements over the last 3 years. So in this, with this, the experts look at the ability of the project to raise the needed funds before financial close. The project funding support, and this is the willingness of the capital providers to provide the funds. Depending on the project, it can be equity providers, lenders, grant authorities, depending on the financial structure of the project. And then project contract terms, okay? This includes the whole set of contracts that the project will need at financial close. The experts will look at evidence that there is willingness, that the steps with the different stakeholders are well advanced. So through MOUs, LOIs, letters of support that applicants deliver, okay, in terms of offtake, supply, equipment, as I already mentioned. And if you have any due diligence report, this is optional and you can also include it as a supporting document. As my colleague Christine presented, financial maturity is a very important criteria. It's critical. Many projects fail here, okay, because the experts really want to make projects pass if and only if they have a high certainty that the project will be implemented. So relatively 30% of projects fail in financial maturity and alone or with other criteria. It's very important then that the applicants put a lot of effort in this criteria. So basically last year, of the proposals that failed financial maturity, first it was because there were lack of credibility, okay, regarding the business plan. What does this mean? There was insufficient evidence or substantiation regarding main financial elements. Depending on the project, it can be CapEx, OpEx, or revenues. And in some cases, this means that there is no detailed breakdown, for example, of CapEx or of revenues. Okay, so the experts then, they don't have certainty that the estimations are well advanced, or they don't have certainty that actually the estimations are correct. Okay, and this has to be aligned with the evidence as per Annex 3. The CapEx, OpEx, the revenues has to be aligned, and the financing assumptions with the evidence, the letters that the applicants provide, okay, to substantiate the descriptions. In terms of the financing plan, basically, if the experts see that in the business plan annex, the projects describe a financing structure with different sources, but then they go to the evidence, to the annexes, and they don't find the supporting evidence, for example, from lenders, then this casts doubt on the ability of the project to reach financial close, because then the experts don't have any evidence that the project has done these preliminary steps with the potential lenders, for example. So then again, it's very important that the application is complete with the full set of evidence. Here in this slide, we have summarized the 6 golden rules of financial maturity, okay, that actually summarize in these 6 elements what I have just said, okay. Very important, the commitment of project sponsors, okay, the financial statements, and also the letters evidencing, okay, the willingness of the capital providers to provide the funds. Then the business plan assumptions, fully substantiated, justified, and in line with the financial information file and the evidence as per Annex 3. The financing plan has no gaps, okay? It's well described where the funds will come from, not only to finance construction, but also throughout the operation of the project, okay? Very important, the relevant cost methodology. Please, for the applicants, read it carefully because it gives a lot of guidance as of which costs are eligible and how to fill in the financial information file. We also have a tutorial, okay, on how to fill in the financial information file. It's important also that these required documents evidencing the different contracts of the project fulfill the requirements that are described in Annex 3 of the call text with all of the details, okay? So it's quite complete. So there you will see what the experts will look at when they evaluate each of these required documents. And finally, the key business and financial risks. Okay, we leave it at the end, but it's very important. Okay, if the project has any critical dependencies, the experts, they will assume that the applicants will identify potential risks, for example, of these dependencies, and identify the suitable mitigation measures. So this is also a very important element, okay? Identifying the main critical business and financial risks and a suitable effective mitigation measures for each of them. If one is missing, I mean, the project may fail financial maturity if one important risk or mitigation measure is missing. And with this, I pass over to my colleague, Christine, again.
So, operational maturity. You might think it's a soft criterion and easy to fulfill, but we actually fail projects also on this criterion, unfortunately. So, what's there inside? Timetable, Gantt chart, mandatory document, and very often you even can't imagine how often the proposals forget to add the Gantt chart. You will fail at admissibility and eligibility. Readable Gantt chart. Very often people just take the screenshot of the Gantt chart, annex it to the proposal. It's impossible to read the Gantt chart. Make sure it is readable. Double check it. Participant information. Our technical experts will go even to your LinkedIn page and Google you to make sure that you have the relevant skills for your project management. If you have education in political science and you are planning to manage a biogas plant, most likely they will judge that you don't have the relevant skills to and no experience in biogas plant management. So it's extremely important that you appoint people that will manage your project with the relevant skills, education, experience. Feasibility study, I indicated already, mandatory document, due diligence report, permits and licenses, authorizations. We also, just one slide, we also fail projects on permits, licenses and authorizations descriptions. You have to indicate very detailed list on what permits do you need to acquire for your project. Do a very good research. Indicate the timeline. If you don't have the permits, it's okay. You don't need to have them at the proposal stage, but create a good list of permits that you will need. Describe a plan how you are going to acquire those permits. Environmental licenses, building licenses, this all has to be listed there. There is a lot of administrative work for this criterion. but you have to really fulfill in order to succeed, because they know that which permits and licenses have to be there. And the next criterion is replicability. Might sound easy criterion, but not always so easy. There are several aspects that you have to cover there, and you have to make sure that they are covered. You have to indicate what is the replicability is about, how you are going to replicate your plant elsewhere in Europe. For example, you take your plan and you take someone takes your idea to Poland, to Germany, wherever. What will be the efficiency gains? What are the environmental impacts of positive impacts from your project? Roman will talk about do not significant harm there, which is a new aspect in this criterion. And also what contribution to Europe's industrial leadership and competitiveness you can indicate. There you have to study the EU legislation, different EU strategies regarding the GHG emission reduction in the energy sector, in technologies. And you have to simply address how your new plant will help Europe to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, improve their industrial competitiveness, aspects like this. Knowledge sharing used to be mandatory template. You have to add their mandatory templates as well. Used to be a bit stricter there, but nowadays it is important that you indicate there how you are planning to communicate about your project, how you are going to disseminate the results of your project, and how you will indicate the visibility. What is there important? There is a guideline for that indicated, also a template. Always mention that you are planning to follow the EU communication rules. You will provide the EU statement, the funding statement, and the EU label. That's extremely important for us, this statement in your project proposal. And now we go to...
Yeah, so you can see that the Innovation Fund is not a simple application process. We didn't want to add new elements, but this needed to apply to all EU funding instruments. So from 2025, we need to apply the do no significant harm principle, which for some of you may be familiar from EU taxonomy. The key message here is we need to show that while your project is reducing greenhouse gas emissions, that you're not doing something else bad at the same time. So you're not polluting a water body, or you're not creating air pollution, or you're not impacting significantly on biodiversity. So projects are required to show that they meet what are called the technical screening criteria. So this is a list of criteria for each economic activity, for each of these environmental objectives, which comes from the EU taxonomy regulation. What's important to say is that not all of the EU taxonomy obligations apply, so you don't need to show, for those of you familiar with the EU taxonomy, any significant contribution to these environmental objectives. You just need to show you're not doing any significant harm. And we've had a lot of questions to the help desk, but also the info day. Does this mean my sector is not eligible? No, in general, if there's no economic activity listed in the taxonomy, you're automatically going to be eligible under this criteria. So all previously eligible sectors to the Innovation Fund will remain eligible. You just need to add this additional justification. So what are we requiring of you? You need to produce what's called a DNSH compliance plan. That sounds really technical, but really we're just looking for a page showing that you understand that you need to meet the DNSH principle, and you provide this compliance plan, the steps that you'll go through, the resources, the timeline, similar to how you would meet environmental permitting requirements for your project. And that'll be part of your application. Then at the end of the operation of your project, you'll need to submit a report demonstrating that you are in compliance with this principle throughout the project's lifetime. So in terms of preparing the DNSH compliance plan, first you need to find your relevant economic activity. Generally, this depends on the product you're producing. So if you're producing hydrogen, the economic activity will be manufacture of hydrogen. If you're producing cement, it's manufacture of cement. Then you need to find the relevant technical screening criteria, and there's screenshots and links to help you find them. And then finally, you prepare the compliance plan itself. And like I said, we're just looking for around a page of information as part of your application form to say, we are aware of these technical screening criteria. Here is our plan to meet them through the project lifetime. We will undertake an environmental impact assessment together with our environmental permitting, for example, or we will undertake these greenhouse gas calculations. So it's a plan. We're not looking for you to have already met the DNSH principle. We're just looking for a plan in the application form.
Okay, we have reached cost efficiency, relevant cost calculation. So if the applications pass the previous criteria, they will be assessed in terms of the cost efficiency ratio. Okay, the cost efficiency criteria is divided in two sub-criteria. One is automatic. Okay, it's on the basis of the cost efficiency ratio, and it's an automatic score on the basis of the formulas that you can see here, that they are segmented in two depending on whether the project is a pilot or for all other topics. Please note that there is a maximum cost efficiency ratio for all topics, which is 200 euros per ton of CO2 equivalent. Okay, that is the maximum, so the lower the better. And for pilots, actually, it's 2,000 euros per ton of CO2 equivalent. But the difference is that for pilots, if the cost efficiency ratio is higher than this 2,000 euros per ton of CO2 equivalent, proposals get 0 score, but they continue in the evaluation process, so they are not rejected, as opposed to the other topics, okay? Which are the key documents that applications need to fulfill for this criteria? In application form part B, the relevant section, then the financial information file. As you might know, this is like a calculator that on the basis of the project inputs, the relevant costs are automatically calculated, okay? And the grant is maximum 60% of the estimated relevant costs. The cost efficiency ratio is actually the ratio between the requested grant plus other potential public support that applicants include in the financial information file and in their financing sources in the business plan annex and also in Part B, with the absolute GHG emission avoidance during the 10 years after entry into operation, okay? Of course, the lower the grant and the higher the GHG, okay, the better the cost efficiency ratio. It's very important, as I said before, that applicants look very carefully into the relevant cost methodology and the guidance in terms of eligible and ineligible costs, and also the boundaries of the project, the relevant cost estimation, and particularities for different types of projects. For example, okay, there are projects that fail because they include royalties between related parties, which is actually excluded as eligible cost, or terminal value, depreciation, or capex after entry into operation. What has changed with respect to last year? Okay, we receive detailed questions through the help desk, and the relevant cost methodology guidance then is improved on the basis of the questions that we have been receiving. So there you can find, for example, additional guidance on the boundaries for the relevant cost calculation, assumptions for integrated projects, an update of the list of excluded items. Okay, for example, we received questions regarding acquisition of producing assets or facilities that were commissioned before submission, and in-kind contributions. Now I will explain also the simplification on the WACC estimation. So this has also been updated for those that are reapplying. It's important to take a look at these differences. Okay, these are things that you would have to change with respect to last year. So the risk-free rate is still on the basis of Appendix 2, okay? And it would be, of course, if the project is implemented in Latvia, the risk-free rate associated to Latvia. The beta has been simplified, okay? It's a fixed value of 1. The equity risk premium This year, okay, it has been simplified also. So we have a default value of 6%, and projects can apply a plus or minus 2%, okay, depending on the project itself and how you justify it. It's very important that it's justified, okay? If you use an 8%, for example, you need to explain why, because experts will question that. And the innovation premium, finally, the default value of 2.5% should be applied, with the potential to increase to 3%, also upon justification. Now over to Christine. Thanks.
So bonus points, very quickly. So as I mentioned, the project that is coordinated by a small, medium-sized company, right away bonus point, right away gets a bonus point. It has to be officially, of course, approved as a small and medium-scale company, not just any company. And if you have also a project applying in maritime sector, you get a bonus point. These are very easy bonus points to get. So potential for decarbonizing the maritime sector and reducing its climate impacts. And now that was it for the NZT call. I really suggest if you apply for NZT, hydrogen, heat auction, don't leave it to the last minute. Have enough of time to apply for the proposal, write your proposal. As regards small scale topic, I would like to, maybe you watched this year National Info Days. There was a project, a company that applied in a small scale topic, and one person did all the papers all by himself. He presented this year and he succeeded in getting funding. So don't be afraid of the amount of work you can do. But there are companies that have done it. So quickly to go through the hydrogen auction, as Roman mentioned, here we are less interested in your innovation. Here we are interested in hydrogen production, in scaling hydrogen production. We have 3 topics in this auction. First topic is renewable RF and bio. So maybe you know this term, renewable fuel production from non-biological origin. So here is hydrogen. First topic was for hydrogen production. Second topic is for hydrogen production and electrolyte low carbon hydrogen production. And third topic is also for hydrogen or electrolyte low carbon hydrogen production. But here the off-takers have to be aviation or maritime sector. As you know, the European Commission is actively focusing on reducing GHG emissions from the aviation and maritime sectors, so they are important. The overall funding is 1.3 billion. And here the general eligibility conditions are similar to those ones as NZT call, except that installed capacity has to be minimum 5 megawatts, and it has to be in single location. There cannot be pooling. Projects must limit the sourcing of electrolyzers and its components from China. And so off-takers, the restrictions per topic, as I mentioned, and the bid ceiling price is €4 per kilogram of RFBO, or electric low-carbon hydrogen. Key implementation arrangements. So here, financial close has to be reached earlier, within 2.5 years after signing grant agreement. Entry into operation is similar to NZT, within 5 years, and there has to be also a completion guarantee. 8% of the requested grant cover, Then payments. There is no payment before entering into operation. You remember that for NZT there is a payment at financial close, but here there is no payment before entering into operation. And here I wanted to indicate call and assessment structure. There is also a list of mandatory annexes that has to be followed. And here in dark green, we indicate the criterions that are being evaluated for the auction. So the criterions are pass-fail. For the relevance, it's how your proposal corresponds to the objective of the call, how well it is grading at achieving security of supply of the essential goods and contribution to the Europe's industrial leadership and competitiveness. And similar to NZT, there is also a quality analysis, technical maturity, financial maturity, and operational maturity. It's important that you follow all the guidelines in describing your project. What is essential, as Robin mentioned, here we analyze your price of hydrogen. The bidding price is the main issue. And we understand that there are many countries in this auction that win this auction, for example, Spain, where there is lots of renewable energy, and that's why you can produce better your hydrogen at a lower price. We also encourage Latvia to apply, since we also have renewable electricity. We encourage you to apply for the auction. And down to the heat auction.
Okay, I think I'm last now presenting about the heat auction. Just a quick word on the hydrogen auction. We've seen it's been highly competitive in the first 2 rounds of the hydrogen auction, but keep in mind the bid prices that were successful in the past, or the cutoff, may not necessarily govern what the bid prices which will be successful in the future are. The hydrogen market is changing, so if you have applied in the past and been unsuccessful, do not be afraid to apply again this time round. So why have we put aside 1 billion of the budget of the Innovation Fund specifically for industrial process heat? Why not just continue that in the Innovation Fund main budget? Well, the main reason is that 3/4 of industrial emissions, so the industry sector, cement, steel, food and beverage, glass, construction materials, 3/4 of those emissions come from the production of heat. So what we see is that there's an opportunity here to make a significant inroads into industrial emissions. To date, most of the low carbon or decarbonisation projects are focused either on biomass, but we know there's a limit to the amount of biomass available for decarbonisation, or you've seen also that the Innovation Fund has supported a number of hydrogen projects. What's missing is we don't have a lot of projects which are focused on electrification. And that's also the case across industry. Only 4% of industry's energy needs currently come from electricity. We see there's an ongoing cost gap compared with fossil fuels, particularly in some countries. Gas prices are still lower than electricity prices for many industries, and this hinders market ramp up. So this mechanism is focused on providing the CapEx, but also on OpEx support for switching from fossil fuels across to electrified heat production. And the other reason why we created this instrument is it's possible for us to rank projects on a single metric, heat production, euros of support per megawatt hour of heat production, for projects in all countries in the EEA, all sizes of projects from small family companies up to large industrials, and across a wide range of industrial sectors. So what are the objectives of the call? Well, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by supporting the market ramp up in industrial process heat decarbonisation. In the low temperature basket, 100 degrees to 400 degrees, many of these technologies are mature. But in the higher temperature basket, above 400 degrees, often technologies, for example, for electrifying glass production or for some processes in the steel industry, are very innovative and so need support. And the other element is that, as announced as part of the Clean Industrial Deal, there will be targeted 100 billion euros for industrial decarbonisation under the Industrial Decarbonisation Bank. The design of this new instrument is still being worked through, and that will, come in the coming years. But this auction acts as a pilot for this larger instrument. So we are looking at whether this kind of support could be a model for the future Industrial Decarbonisation Bank with a much bigger budget. So who's eligible? Projects that electrify industrial process heat, that can be heat pumps, electric boilers, resistance heating, or more innovative technologies like plasma torches, electric shockwave heating, for example, and also projects that use direct renewable heat, which comes from solar thermal or geothermal, and any hybrid of the above. There's 3 topics. We have small projects between 3 and 5 megawatt hours thermal capacity of 100 to 400 degrees, projects above 5 megawatts thermal, and then also 500 million euros dedicated for projects producing process heat above 400 degrees. Now, how does the auction process work? As Christine mentioned for the hydrogen auction, first we have to check that your project meets the award criteria, that it's relevant and that it's of sufficient quality, that you're not a company that was created yesterday and has no financial resources behind it, for example. But we don't go into detail into the maturity of your company. Why? Because you need to provide us with a completion guarantee. So you have to give us, at the start of the project, 6% of the final grant amount as a guarantee that you're going to finish the project. So because we have this guarantee, we go into a lot less stringent checks than we would for the NZT core. And then, so projects which meet these basic criteria are ranked purely on price, and the first projects are awarded up until we reach the core or the topic budgets. What's important to note is that whereas in the NZT core, you can receive funding before you enter into operation. So as long as once you meet the financial close milestones, enter into operation, you can receive funding. For the auctions, we pay as you produce heat or hydrogen in this case. So you're only receiving funding after the project has gone into operation. And that reflects the lower technical risk. Here's the documentation that you need to submit. It still looks long, but I can guarantee that it's probably half as big, something like that, half as big as producing an NZT call application. So there's a smaller application form, and we're only looking for relatively high level heads of terms for your contract sheets. Noting though that the application does close on the 19th of February. So if you're hearing about this call for the first time now, it's probably quite late for you to be starting an application. We can never guarantee which calls will open in December next year, but I hope if this instrument is successful that there would be a new auction again next year. We've talked about the bid volumes. I don't think I need to go into that. The bid ranking, sorry. Okay, so how do you prepare a bid? So we're asking the companies to submit a bid price based on the euros per megawatt hour thermal, so the amount of heat you produce. And that's what you'll get paid on. So we'll measure after the project enters into operation how much heat you actually produced, and you'll be subsidized for that. But as you can imagine, electricity is not carbon neutral. I mean, in the grid. For the purposes of this, call, though, we are assuming electricity is emissions free, and that the source of heat you're replacing will either be the phase 4 ETS heat benchmark, so as in the average standard heat production across the EU, or if you are replacing a specific fossil fuel-fired installation, then the reference scenario, or what you're replacing, will use the emissions factor of that fuel, natural gas or coal. And so your bid will be transformed from a euros per megawatt hour into a euros per tonne of CO2 avoided. And this is really so that we can encourage the projects which are decarbonising the dirtiest installations first. Now, I mentioned we're considering that the electricity grid is carbon neutral for the purposes of the auction. So we're not taking into account indirect emissions, but we do want to support the further ramp up of renewable energies into the energy grid. And one of the ways we're doing that in the auction design is by prioritising or preferencing projects which either implement a flexible ramping schedule. What does that mean? It means that your project, if there's a price signal in the electricity market that's saying there's not enough energy supply at this point in time, the electricity price goes high, that your project can follow that price signal and reduce its energy demand. That could be through implementing specific control systems in your plant, or storage, changes in your process which allow you to meet that flexible ramping schedule. Or you can implement energy storage, so batteries on site or thermal energy storage on site, in which case you are able to claim up to 100% of load hours. Or if your project uses direct renewable heat or very efficient heat pumps, you can also claim a higher subsidy. Just a quick note on which technologies are not eligible. If you're producing heat for district heating, for space heating, or if you're not producing heat at all, if you're using some other process in industry, you're not eligible. Electric arc furnaces in steel industry are already deemed to be economically competitive and so are not eligible, and the same with electrolysis processes in the aluminium sector. As I mentioned, we have a lot of other support mechanisms for biomass and hydrogen, so they're not eligible. And projects cannot implement new fossil fuel-fired capacity as part of their project, except for a specific exception for the glass industry or if you can demonstrate that there's technical or safety restrictions to being able to implement a 100% electrified process. And if you are using a heat pump, if your heat pump is sourcing waste heat you must take it from environmental heat or from industrial processes, but not from power generation, district heating, or waste incineration. And as we mentioned, like with all Innovation Fund projects, you must comply with the do no significant harm principle. Slightly different timeline to the hydrogen auction. You have 2 years to reach financial close, 4 years to reach entry into operation, and you will be paid every 6 months of heat production after you enter into operation. If your project can vary your heat production as compared to what was bid, as long as you don't fall below 30% of your bid amount for 3 years running. I mentioned a little bit what the application requirements. So there's an application form A, B, and C, and the supporting annexes. I've already spoken about this. So you need to provide a completion guarantee. As I mentioned, this is how we ensure the project is serious about going ahead. We don't want to fund or miss out on funding good projects because we've funded projects which weren't serious. So you have to provide a letter of intent from a bank or financial institution which meets our requirements, which covers 6% of the grant amount. And in terms of when it would be called, this completion guarantee, if the project does not reach entry into operation within the 4 years, and it may be called if the project does not reach financial close in 2 years. Okay, that brings us to the end of our slides for today, and we look forward to your questions. Just a quick couple of announcements or advertisements. 2026 Clean Tech Conference will be held in Brussels. This is an opportunity for projects from the Innovation Fund, but also industry leaders, financial institutions to meet together and talk about the future of clean tech. So put it in your calendar for the 19th of May. And we are always looking, or CINEA is always looking for experts to evaluate proposals. So if you are either a technical expert, a financial expert, greenhouse gas expert, or a rapporteur, then please apply using this QR code to CINEA to sign up as an expert. We're always looking for good people to evaluate proposals. And here's a list of links to our social media and websites. If you're looking for more, please follow us. All right, and that's it for our presentation, and we have time for some questions, I believe.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for very detailed presentations. And now we come to the question session. So, lūdzu, arī jūs uzdot jautājumus.
I invite you to ask questions. You can also ask questions in the Latvian language as interpretation will be provided. Does the audience in person has any questions? I'll start with my questions. So first, we heard that it is very important to complete all the templates, all the forms, all the annexes So if you are not really committed and invest yourself in this project, maybe you should assess whether it is really worth it. And completion guidelines for these templates are very, very important. So first criterion is whether all the mandatory requirements are met, and many fail here. And after that, evaluation is performed. And I have a question about evaluation. Actually, we've heard that there are several directions or several aspects like technical, financial, and operational. So maybe for each of these directions or aspects, if there are now quantitative indicators like Excel tables with formulas, can you maybe provide an example or several examples how specific indicators or activities have helped to win in this competitive game? Because when all the basic requirements are met, the real competition starts. And last year we saw that there were 2 excellent projects that qualified from the point of view of formalities, but they did not succeed in the competitiveness stage. In Latvia, we have only 1 project that has received financing. So maybe you can explain as assessors, as evaluators, what are the life hacks or keys for success?
But they applied, both of them applied in the large-scale topic. And as Roman and we mentioned, the competition in large scale is extremely high. There you compete with the major companies at the European level, the biggest cement producers, the biggest steel producers, whatever names you think of, and they are capturing CO2. In combination with energy improvements, for example, in cement production, they are capturing CO2. And they are getting bonus point. The funding that they ask for is extremely big. And they probably write their project proposals with the major consultancies, but not that is important. For those 2 projects that scored high, they applied in large scale and they didn't have any bonus point. And we went back with colleagues looking for those bonus points because we were really sorry. We saw that the quality was really high and Latvia doesn't have many projects. So we paid special attention to the geographical balance, but unfortunately there was nothing to pick up those projects higher. So it's important that you get those bonus points. And in this case, the net carbon removals, bonus point 1, to score higher, yes. Unfortunately, yeah.
And I would like to add that in addition to this, actually these projects score almost the maximum score in each of the criteria and sub-criteria. So you really have to go to the limit in the large-scale topic and score almost the maximum points. This is a lessons learned from last year. I mean, this year we don't know. We don't have the crystal ball, but it's very competitive.
And last year it was actually resubmissions that got the most of the funding in the large scale. So if your project was first time applying, I really encourage try again and this time score higher at bonus points.
Jā, es pareizi saprotu, tad pagājušajā gadā arī Lietuva.
As far as I understand, in Lithuania and Estonia, I think there were also only 1 project that succeeded. It means that in our region in total or in general, we have quite a lot of room for improvement. We have received 1 online question, but this question is very, very specific about a specific project. Most probably we can individually ask the experts or write to the contact point, or maybe you can approach the experts personally. If you have questions that are very specific and not relevant for the audience, then maybe you should do that individually. Otherwise, you can ask questions here. So we have one microphone and it will be passed around.
Do you have a specific preference to give, a fast track to projects that were shortlisted last year but didn't get, the funding? Are they having some sort of extra favors when they're applying the next year? Because it a little bit looks like that the projects, when they apply the second year, they get a better probability to win. So.
No, absolutely not. There's the evaluation is done independently each year, and in general, the evaluators don't have access to the previous year's proposals when they're evaluating. But there is an opportunity. Of course, projects have an opportunity to take the feedback they got last year and improve their application. So that's the reason why projects are more successful. Projects which do fail, which are not successful, have two advantages though. One is that if they're above the minimum thresholds, they can get the STEP quality seal, which then enables them to have a fast tracking potentially for other EU funding instruments and national funding schemes. But also projects that are unsuccessful can be eligible to receive PDA, Project Development Assistance, from the EIB. And so that assistance has then shown that with the consulting help, and the EIB will present after, that they can get support to improve their application and be successful either in the Innovation Fund or through other instruments, InvestEU or other instruments later on.
Okay, another question. About the GHG calculations, and where we get a little bit confused is the fact about CO2 reduction. If we use CO2 as a feedstock, and within the future factory, CO2, of course, it's going to be a little bit like a byproduct additionally, but we will capture it. But in general, we will import the biogenic CO2. Shouldn't it be scoring us extra points? Because by the explanation, it's not clear. It's like, unless we store the CO2, we are not seen, but we're using it as a feedstock, so we are limiting the amount of CO2.
And then net carbon, you have to look at the total than the GHG emission balance. So if in order to get that bonus point, for example, for net carbon removals have to be higher than 100%. It has to go into minus. Then it depends really on your calculation. I see that there is a potential, for example, for that bonus point 1, but CO2 it then is your feedstock, and you are explaining as CO2 utilization. Write me an email. I will clarify then this with my GHG experts to clarify. And as regarding their submissions, I just wanted to say during the evaluation process, we check if you have submitted the proposal, and we check how you solved that. And we informed the expert that this was the proposal that was submitted. They were failing on technical maturity or didn't address in the previous proposal. Now they have solved this. So it is important information for technical experts. But of course, we have to address every proposal in terms of evaluation separately. But it is important information for our experts when we evaluate.
Jā, lūdzu, vēl jautājumi.
Any other questions? While you are preparing yourself, I have a question about how to assess the level of innovation of a project. You mentioned that if you combine current technologies, it can also be an innovation. Wouldn't that qualify all the business projects? And how do you sort them, which is more or less innovative, and how does that affect the number of points? Of course, that affects these points.
Used at commercial level. There are several plants using the same technology. It will score at basically almost at incremental. In my panel, there are several projects that failed because the innovation was incremental. This technology was proven, it's largely applied. But then, as an example, again, some technologies that are already proved, for example, producing biomethane with CHP and capturing CO2, having highly energy efficiency, this proved innovative. because there are not so many biomethane plants that have CO2 capture option together with CHP. So this, as well as capturing CO2 and selling it to a company that will use this CO2 as biogenic CO2. This was innovative, and I really advise to apply similar approach. This way you won't fail, for example, on using totally new technology that is not proven yet. There are some proposals that fail on that, and yes, these are just few examples. Go on.
Yeah, just to add, have a look at Annex 1, which specifically is related to the degree of innovation. Read this carefully. So we measure state of the art based on what is in operation. So that is how you'll see some innovation fund projects which are quite similar to one another, because we can fund one project and then another, because the first one is still not yet in operation. So you're measuring against not what has been funded, but what is actually made it through successfully. It's got its financing and then actually started producing. So that's really important. There's a lag between when an innovation fund project gets funded and when it becomes into operation. We're measuring against those in operation. That's a really important one. And the other one is that you can show innovation in a number of ways. Look at Annex 1. You can show business model innovation, all sorts of innovation, not just on the technology itself.
Okay, well, and if we speak about innovations, you mentioned that it should be like mature in the European Union. What about the wider world? So if that technology is proved somewhere outside, that's the same principle.
Exactly, the same principle, yes. Describe as much as information.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Yeah?
So another question, I have a technical question. So our technology partners, the ones who will be licensing us the project so we can build a plant, they have experience for 60 years to work with NASA to build power stations, outside in the space. They are working on like 2 billion projects, building ammonia plants in the East and projects like that. Technically, they are not our teammates, but technically, if we are the only project that gets this license within Europe and Asia, but they're not our team member. So the question is about the team's experiences, the eligibility. It's like, do we need to specifically frame them? Do we need an extra letter of intent or something? Because they come with their experience of more than 100 years of building, the engineering stuff, they're a big corporation. It's a bit also unclear from this side, how can we say that they are our members? Because maybe the core team of the owners of this project, they have slightly different business acumen.
Would you like to add them as a beneficiary in your project? You are the coordinator and you get the chunk of you are the main, you receive the funding, and then add them as a beneficiary. They don't have to add a major, they don't have to have a major role. They can have a bit of money from your project, and then you indicate them as a partners.
So we just add their portfolio description about them, and we call them as beneficiaries?
Yes, beneficiary. You are the coordinator, your project. They are beneficiaries. And this is where your technical strength to the project is coming from.
As you might know, all beneficiaries, they are signatories to the grant agreement. So this is one alternative indeed. If you are not able to get them on board in your consortium, then of course the experts will look at the commitment and the willingness of them to participate and what risks does the project have of not getting them on board if they are an essential part of the project because of this license. So either they are part of the consortium and you have them fully on board, and if this is not possible, you have to identify the risk and mitigate the risk of them not participating. It has to be very clear for the experts that you will have access to this license.
No, but we already have an MOU since last year. We renewed it in November again. I'm just thinking about the formulation, and is there a specific form or wording how we need to explain their involvement? Because we were thinking maybe we need to ask them to be, as investors, is seen better or not better?
Most likely, just having experience myself from them, if you don't add it now and your project succeeds, most likely we will ask you to add them as beneficiary because they have such a strong involvement in the project during the grant agreement preparation process afterwards. So I would encourage you to do that, to make your project even stronger, having their technical background. Otherwise, memorandum of understanding works also very well, explaining and in the technical part, explaining their technical strengths and the involvement in the company, which will allow you to succeed.
Well, one more procedural question. Tātad vēl viens tāds praktiskās dabas jautājums. Ja nu gadījumā...
It's a practical question then. If some clarifications are necessary from the applicant of the project, how much the initial application can be then added something to that, supplemented, or you have no possibilities to correct later?
When we announce the winners, so until October, when we announce the evaluation results, you cannot influence at all. So we had, I think we received a support letter from the Ministry of Economics or Ministry of Energy and Climate for one proposal, but we didn't consider it into account because it was after the deadline. But what we noted, and me personally, what I noted, what technical experts considered when your Latvian government, some proposals had support letters from the Latvian government indicating that they are strategically important. They have economic benefits. And this had a role to play when technical experts evaluated, also financial experts evaluated, that they were annexed to the proposal. So this had a role, but until end of October, they have no way, only afterwards.
And just to add, I think it's really important to know this. So if you've got if a technical expert has a question about your project, so they're reading through all your documentation, and they come to something that they don't really understand, they have no way to contact the project. They only can assess the project based on what is submitted. So make sure that you send all of your documentation to someone outside of your project team, at least one, for them to read and check, because you may make assumptions about what is in the documentation, but someone is coming to this fresh. They're not allowed to go search other information about your company that, in documentation. They have to go what's on the proposal. So really check and double check that everything is in that package of documents.
Jā, lūdzu, jautājumu.
Oh. So I have a question then, because you mentioned that when we present our team, the experts may go in and check their LinkedIn bio to see their skill set. So isn't that an example of going beyond the scope of the submitted proposal?
You can count it, but this is the way some experts work, because another example, why technical experts they were analyzing the proposal and they were adopting the technology, how innovative is the technology. So the proposal provided very poor information about the innovation. I guess there was a reason. One of my experts, during the evaluation process, in a call with me, she went on International Energy Agency's website, the country's energy website, translated quickly, and she found 2 other plants operating in the country. And it was, it should have been, it was medium scale, so the innovation has to be at the European level. They do this, technical experts are allowed to analyze what the information, this is their knowledge that they use to analyze the projects.
Faktiski šāda izpēte vairāk, lai...
Such research is necessary to make sure whether the information is correct. Well, you do not use it as an additional argument. It's just that nobody apart from you tells about it better.
So it's not bad if we have a very informative website, which the expert might jump into just to investigate us. And we might have more expanded information.
Yeah, the point I was trying to make is that they cannot go looking to fill in the gaps of your proposal when you don't include the information. They can try and verify the information in your proposal, but they're not going to go looking where you've left a gap to help you fill it in, if you know what I mean.
And also, you are encouraged if it's publicly available information, to include the links, okay? And the experts can check very easily if you have all of this information online.
Thank you.
Tā, lūdzu, jautājums.
I have a question about the small-scale projects and big-scale projects. Where's the difference? Where's the border between the ones and the second ones? And you mentioned that the evaluation is made for small-scale projects. Evaluation is made locally on national level, and who is doing that in Latvia?
So, Roman will go to the slide where we indicate what is the difference between large-scale, medium, and small-scale. It's the main difference is in the capital expenditures of your project. The difference is that for here, you see the capital expenditure of large-scale project has to be above 100 million. And the capital expenditure of the project applying under small-scale project has to be between maximum 20 million capital expenditures of the project and minimum 2.5 million capital expenditures of your innovation fund project.
Yeah, so this is not the grant that you will receive. So remember, the grant is a maximum of 60% of eligible costs. So a grant for the small scale projects, we might have between 2, even lower than 2 million, up to maybe 7 is typically what a grant for the small scale projects are, but it depends on your business model, your future revenues, etc. But the eligibility for the different topics is based on the capex of the project.
Who does the evaluation at a local level?
The same experts. How we have evaluations. For example, I'm specialized in bioenergy and carbon capture. This is my topic, and I select technical expert. I have a portfolio of proposals that applied in bioenergy and carbon capture. I take up 5 proposals, bioenergy proposals. I find 2 technical experts that they know bioengineering of those projects. And we have a week, we evaluate those projects. Before that, they prepare their reports, but we have per sector technical experts and also financial engineers that are being selected. The same applies also to a GHE. And the same, so you can have in my panel, there were 3 large-scale bioenergy projects and 2 small-scale bioenergy projects and 1 medium-scale project. So this is the range of my panel. The most important is per sector because we select the technical experts per sector.
Oh, I'm sorry, just...
Yes.
Lūdzu mikrofonā,
Sorry, just to clarify. In your presentation, you mentioned the following: evaluated on national level. Does this mean that the small-scale projects are evaluated somehow differently as the big-scale projects?
Yes.
And the competition, I mean the market for the competition also differs from a big-scale project?
Yes.
Yes? No?
Yes.
And to what extent? And what is the difference?
For large-scale, then the experts will look at the innovation. They will compare what are the projects at the EU level, similar projects. The projects that you claim, they will go to the Innovation Fund dashboard, check similar projects at the European level, in Spain, Germany, France, wherever. But then if you apply in a small scale, for example, I want to build an innovative biogas plant in Latvia. They will go and check the Innovation Fund dashboard, see if there are other biogas plants in Latvia. No, they don't find any biogas plant. Then they will go to Google, search, are there biogas plants in Latvia? What technologies are these biogas plants using? This is their research at the national level only.
Okay, are there any other questions? Yes, please.
Hello, I have a question about net carbon removals. As you mentioned, they have to be above 100. But at which level do we get a bonus point? It's not
110.
above 110?
Yes, you get a bonus point if it's 110.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have other questions, please. Go.
Well, it's great to have you guys here, so why not? So my question is that in the call text, well, I just got back from my parental leave yesterday, so I'm not fully informed about everything in the text, but there's one mention that we're allowed a minimum of 2 extra work packages. I'm getting a little bit confused when I read that, because is it mandatory to add additional work packages, or is it a maximum in some sense than the ones that are already been mentioned in the context?
No, you follow the context, first of all. But if you want to operate longer than the mandatory, add those 2.
Thank you. That explains a lot.
But well, from the perspective of valuation, is
No
there
difference.
is
No difference. We don't. Yeah.
Okay,
The most
thank
for
you.
evaluation perspective, the faster you reach your financial close, the better it is. Also, enter into operation timeline. Afterwards, like it's entry like how minimum 3 years and 5 years for MDT.
Okay, other questions? There was also mentioned the contact point in the Ministry of Climate and Energy, tad bija arī minēts kontaktpunkts Klimata un enerģētikas ministrijā.
So, the Ministry of Climate and Energy, and in the fund homepage you can find the information about this contact point. But anyways, the specific questions that most probably you will have and you would want to discuss with the Ministry is going to forward to the Commission. And so, anyways, it means that there is a possibility once again to submit the questions to the Ministry, and then, or you directly consult. So then, thank you. Hereby, we are closing the first part of the conference and we are heading over for the coffee break. We are going to continue our work at 12 and 10 minutes. Please use the time for, once again, we'll remind, in a non-formal environment to ask questions to our experts. And after the break, we will continue with Europe Investment Bank presentation on technical support with development of project applications. And then we're going to look back on the topicalities and available support on the road to attraction of the funding.
Tā, mēs turpinām mūsu konferenci pēc kafijas.
Let us continue the conference after the coffee break, and I hope that you're all full of energy and charged, so to say. Now we're going to have the session with Europe Investment Bank on the technical assistance in project development. Johannes Sloman and Monica Artega Garcia are going to present to us. Now, I give the floor to you. Let us continue with the presentations, and I will remind you that we have also the Q&A, and this is indeed such an important part of today's event, that you can ask questions directly. You can also ask questions online, because there's a comment section where it is broadcasted, and we're going to be asking these questions to our presenters.
Great. Thank you very much for the introduction. And thank you all for being here today. It's good to see that there is so much interest, and also good to hear the thoughtful questions from potential project promoters. For us, it's obviously great to have many project applications, and also hopefully potentially a lot of projects that score highly and that have a good chance of winning the Innovation Fund. My name is Johannes Lohmann. I work for the European Investment Bank, and I'm joined by my colleague Monica, who will present in a minute. Some of you might be familiar with the European Investment Bank. I think one thing that's quite important to mention is that we are completely separate from the Commission, completely separate from SINIA, and we are not at all involved in the evaluation of projects for the Innovation Fund. That is not our duty. Our duty is to work with projects that either have applied for the Innovation Fund and were not successful, or that come to us directly and that are eligible for the Innovation Fund and can apply for our assistance, and to help them become more technologically and financially mature. We'll talk about that in a minute, but just by way of introduction to the European Investment Bank. So we, a few years ago, we started being the EU Climate Bank. So climate is a huge priority for us. Our priorities changed a little bit over the past year, but climate is still a major priority. We're one of the biggest multilateral development banks in the world. I think we've invested about 1.5 trillion euros since our inception. We were conceived in 1958 as part of the Rome Treaties. And we're based in Luxembourg. Monica and I both work there. Almost everybody who works for the European Investment Bank is based in Luxembourg. I should also mention this is going to be a relatively short presentation, but there's going to be some time for questions, as was mentioned in the introduction. What the European Investment Bank is mostly known for is its lending activities. So loans, oftentimes to very large projects, very well-established projects. In recent times, the EIB has gotten more involved in more innovative projects as well, but lending is sort of what we're best known for. More recently, we've also been known for blending. So basically creating products that combine our more traditional financing instruments with concessional finance, with money from the EU, etc. There are many different aspects to that work. We come from the advisory side, which is a little bit less well known. And so we have quite a lot of colleagues that focus on different aspects of advisory, and our team focuses very specifically on the Innovation Fund itself. The type of assistance that we give to projects that are either applying for the Innovation Fund or have already applied for the Innovation Fund is called Project Development Assistance, PDA, as we call it, as it was mentioned before. And there's a financial component to that, which I focus on and my colleagues focus on. And then there's a technical component, which Monica and her colleagues focus on. Very often, projects that we work with receive both sides. They receive the technical side and they receive the financial side. And I should say up front, our goal isn't just to help projects to become more likely to win the Innovation Fund. It's also just generally to make them more technologically and financially mature. So we like to work with projects and make them more eligible for all kinds of financing. So of course, we're mandated through the Innovation Fund, so we have a particular interest in that and particular expertise in that, but we want projects to succeed in general, not just at the Innovation Fund. For projects that receive our assistance, that assistance is free. It's a competitive process. And of course, we have our criteria that we have to go through, so not every project wins our support, but you have relatively decent chances of getting it if your project is eligible for the Innovation Fund. As you saw earlier in the evaluation criteria, there are a lot of projects, unfortunately, that fail at the technical and financial maturity hurdle, especially at the financial maturity hurdle. I think it was something like 30%. There have been years where it's 40%. And so, I mean, this is just a difficult part of the application. And those are the parts that we're focused on. Here on the slide, you can see a few components of the types of assistance that we give. So on the financial side, a lot of what we do is financial modeling. Either we work with the existing financial model of a project or we help them create a new one from scratch. But that's really at the core of what we do. We also do assistance for the business plan, to help strengthen the business plan, to make it more aligned with the financial model, to think through key risks and mitigating factors, to maybe help substantiate elements of the revenue assumptions. There are a lot of projects that fail because they're not able to substantiate where the money is going to come from over the years and to show that those assumptions are realistic and then also well reflected and substantiated in the application. So those types of aspects we would help with on the financial side of things. We also sometimes look at fundraising strategy, the financing plan, the governance of a project, et cetera, et cetera. We can do market studies. Monica, maybe do you want to explain briefly the types of assistance we provide on the technical side of things?
Yes, for the technical side, we have included a few examples here. One is the technology assessment, verification of key parameters of the project. That could mean verification of the performance of your project, verification of the competitiveness of your technology compared to others in the market. That could be also an input to a more financial market assessment, for example. It could be also assessment of the degree of innovation of your project, compare both at national, at European level, and any other aspect. We have included also here in the technical side example of the CapEx and OpEx review, also the assumptions on the cost that you have included and how they are supported with your documentation. Again, the market analysis, it could be also a review of the potential sectors that could be off-takers of your product, for example. And also, again, economic analysis also, that could be done. There could be also a review of pilot assessments and scale-up risk assessment. Risk assessment could be also one of the topics that is also carried out frequently. And there are other additional studies like the life cycle assessment, LCA. Just a reminder that the project development assistance cannot be used to write application documentation. So, for example, you have the GHG emissions avoidance template. So we will not filling it up, but we can support your assumptions with an LCA. So the documentation will be supporting the numbers that you will be including. Then there is also business case modeling, where also you can have technical aspects added there. And again, market research, for example. We have included these examples. These are not the only things that can be implemented. These are examples, as I said. So please do not stick to this if this is not the needs of your project. But these are just typical tasks that can be done. So it can be supported also on the evaluation on the ESR or any other project needs that can be discussed with you, and we will be talking about next steps. Thank you.
I'll keep this very brief, and then I'll pass it back to Monica. There are basically two ways that you can receive or apply for PDA, Project Development Assistance. One is, as I mentioned before, if you apply for the Innovation Fund and unfortunately are not successful, then as long as you check the box in the application that you're okay with it, your application will be forwarded to us, and we'll receive it in a big batch of projects in October, and then review that batch and basically select those that we think can most benefit from our help. That process just takes a little while. Here on the slide, you can see that it's estimated 2 to 3 months. Once we decide that we can support a project, we need to get the okay of the Commission, and then we enter into a conversation with you. So then we discuss with you what the scope should be. Usually, I mean, we've reviewed your entire application at that point, so we have a good idea of what we could help you with. But of course, we want to make sure that what we do for you is as good a fit as could be. So that's a conversation. We sign a contract. And then oftentimes we also contract external consultants to help us because we're a relatively small team. And then we kick it off. So from the point in time where we actually send you an email and reach out to you, it's about 2 months before the work starts. And then typically our assistance takes 3 to 6 months. So it's effectively, you'll have consultant assistance for 3 to 6 months from us, either in preparation for the next Innovation Fund application or just in general to improve your technological and financial maturity. And I'll pass it to Monica.
Thank you. Okay, so yes, we have now, since this year, actually 2 ways to obtain PDA. One is the path that Johannes has mentioned, and this is through the application to the Innovation Fund. As he said, you are not successful, you have marked that you have interest actually to be considered for PDA, and then you get this path as he has mentioned. The other path that you have right now is also direct application to EIB. So you have a project and then you apply with EIB directly. We have a website dedicated to that. We have to say that you must be eligible under the Innovation Fund. So this is a strict requisite. And then EIB will be screening eligible projects under EIB constraints. That means also we have a limited budget and limited timeline. So depending also on the amount of projects that we receive. So here we have also included an estimated timeline and the process as in the other path. So the first step will be that you submit a request in the dedicated website through EIB. Compared to the documentation that you have to submit for the application, this is much shorter. This is around 5 pages. So, and if you have any doubt also, you can get in contact with EIB. And then your request will be assessed by the EIB. And also you might be contacted by EIB advisors, financial and technical, to discuss your request in case also there are doubts, something is not clear. So there is still the possibility to discuss with us. And then your project will be screened based on eligibility and also priorities, and again, subject to EIB constraints. So once your project is screened in, EIB and your organization will be redefining if there is any specific aspect to tune the PDA scope, and then the PDA work and the timeline will be defined. And then this is all formalized through the PDA agreement. So this is a contract between EIB and your organization, where the PDA scope is included and all the terms. We have included here a timeline around 2-3 months. As sooner as we sign, as sooner as we can start. It is important also from your side, if you are applying to direct PDA with EIB, to think about the timeline. If you want to reapply, for example, so to think about how to make your planning towards your application to the Innovation Fund or any other funding program or implementation, etc. And then we can start the process. This is as in the previous path. This is an average of 3 to 6 months. It depends on the type of services that will be delivered, if it is only financial, only technical, or both, and how extensive is the PDA. So here again, this is an indicative timeline, and that could be also, it could have also variations. So this is, we included here an overview of the projects awarded with the PDA. The previous period, between 2021 and 2024, there were 62 projects from 15 countries that received PDA, and as you can see, there were several actually PDA in Southern Europe and other areas also around Scandinavia. So we are happy that we can start also supporting Latvian projects. And here we wanted to include the success stories from the Innovation Fund PDA. So as we have mentioned before, the PDA helps on increasing the financial and technical maturity of the project. You can reapply to the Innovation Fund grant, and also you might be successful in other national programs or other type of recognitions. We had several projects that won the Innovation Fund grant after receiving the PDA. We have also projects that were selected in the Breakthrough Energy Catalyst instrument, a project on CCS that received the recognition of a project of common interest and also received funding from Europe. And then we had some examples on national grants and project recognition. For example, we have some in Spain that were recognized as strategic industrial projects, for example. And here we wanted to include an example of PDA. So this is a good example that this is not strictly related to the examples that I have mentioned, for example, in the technical PDA. So this project is CCS Prinos Yar. This is the project that received the recognition of project of common interest, and they receive also further funding. This project is a storage site, so they this is a product as a service, the storage as a service, and also the shipping also. And it's located in Greece, and they receive financial and technical PDA. So for the financial PDA, they receive support on the financial model and advice on the capital structure. And for the technical PDA, it was much more specific. There was support on the assessment of CCS policies and regulations in Greece. And then also there was an overview of the potential reuse of the water extracted from the storage site. So this is not the typical example that I have mentioned before, but this was a task that was delivered within the PDA. Another success story is the project Triskelion. This project is methanol production in Spain. They received the Innovation Fund PDA, and after application, they received the grant from the Innovation Fund. So in terms of services, there was financial and technical PDA. And in the financial PDA, there was support on the financial model, and the technical PDA, there was market analysis and support also on potential technical improvements. And later then they received the Innovation Fund grant. So key takeaways from our presentation. So eligible projects must demonstrate high potential to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The objective of the PDA is to make the project maturity stronger and improve the promoter's capacity. So we expect that the support will be making easier for projects to access funding from the Innovation Fund and from other EU funding schemes and national grants and private financing.
And EIB has a strong record on the delivering advisory, so we can provide the financial and technical PDA, adapt to the needs of your project, and with the open PDA, that this is this new path, you can apply through the whole year. So it's good to take into account, again, with the timeline for potential future applications. And we have actually one example of a Latvian project that is receiving project development assistance through Open PDA. So we are already supporting Latvian projects. And here we have included 2 links. You can learn more about the Innovation Fund also. And also you have the access to the form to apply to the Open PDA if you want. And with that, that's the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Lūdzu, jautājumi. Ir kādi jautājumi no zāles vai arī tiešsaistē?
Questions from the audience or online. Actually, EIB offers very good complementary financial opportunity to what we heard during the first part. As it was said, it can be these projects can be considered for separate autonomous financing sources and for combined sources. I don't see any questions. No, there is a question.
Number of services, actually consultancy services for the companies who are applying for the financing in the bank. What are the general terms and conditions to receive these services, including the financial part of that?
So just to clarify, I mean, the Innovation Fund Project Development Assistance is advisory assistance that's specifically tied to the mandate for the Innovation Fund. So it doesn't actually have anything to do with financing from the EIB. So it's really just advisories, like what the EIB is providing is just advisory services that are linked to the Innovation Fund. I mean, there's sort of certain standard terms and conditions about, you know, you have to, if we work with you, you agree to provide a certain amount of sort of visibility for your project. So you provide sort of a 2-paragraph statement on what the project is. It tends to be the type of information that would be publicly available anyway. So it's not something, you're not basically publishing super confidential information, but you have to agree to publish information about your project that you agree on with us. You agree to provide a certain amount of information to us that does remain confidential, of course. You know, if we're going to work on your financial model or conduct technical support for you, then we need certain inputs. We receive your entire application, so we do see quite a lot of confidential information. So there's an element to this agreement that is, you know, non-disclosure of that information that's also implicit in our contracts. Those are the types of terms of conditions. And then, you know, I don't know if there are other ones that you'd mention.
Yeah, in any case, you actually, when you start working with the advisors, you will receive, as we mentioned, we discussed the PD scope, and also before signing the PD agreement, you receive a draft. So actually you have the opportunity to read all the general terms and conditions. I have to mention that the general terms and conditions are standard for EIB, but you have the opportunity to read the whole agreement before the signature.
But it's not, I mean, it's relatively short, and I think you have to see it in the context of receiving quite a lot of assistance for free. And so I don't think it's the requirements on you aren't particularly onerous, but what's very important to us is that if you come to us for assistance, that we have kind of very frequent communication, we have access to you, to the information that we need to be able to support you. And then in the end, of course, you know, it's up to you to decide whether you think it makes sense. But I mean, the vast majority of projects that approach us and that are selected, we move ahead with, and things go very well. And in my experience, we haven't had any issues with terms and conditions.
In case the project has not been accepted or has not been receiving the funding from Innovation Fund and approaches you mentioned in one of your slides that you provide services like technology assessment, business plan development, blah, 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 many others. This is sort of what kind of package? This is kind of during the negotiations. I mean, these services are provided during the period of negotiations between the client and the bank, or these are additional services provided by the group of professional consultants. How does that work?
So it is entirely separate from any other process with the bank. So if you have a project and you have applied to the Innovation Fund, as you just said, and you weren't successful, then we get the application automatically, and we take a look at that application and determine, what aspects would be most helpful for us to support you on. So it could be the financial model, technical assessment, etc. But if you're separately also considering or in process of potentially talking to other parts of the EIB about financing, that would happen completely separately from us. Just to make sure that that's clear, because that can sometimes cause confusion.
So as we mentioned, we have two paths. One is through the application, as Johannes has mentioned. So through the application, you also receive the evaluation summary report where weaknesses or shortcomings have been identified. We will be also discussing that with you in terms of definition of the PDA scope. You will be proposed, actually, if you are screening, you will be proposed initially a PDA scope that has been also approved by the Commission, and then we start the talks with you. The reason is because you might have applied several months ago. Your projects might have had some kind of evolution, advance or anything, or changes, so we have to be sure that actually the services are still relevant. And that will be for the path through the application. When you come through the direct application to the EIB, we start kind of from scratch. So we discuss with you actually the needs of your project and which areas you think it's more valuable also. And this is all in discussion with the EIB advisors, and all is defined at the end in a PDA scope that will be also included in the agreement.
Citi jautājumi, lūdzu.
Other questions?
Two questions. One is there any time frame limit for that PDA assistance, meaning or it's unlimited for 2 years, 3 years or whatever? Or whether there is also financial limit in the man hours which you, from the bank point of view, spend towards the applicant? And the third part is there any co-financing from the applicant required to receive assistance? Thank you.
So yes, there are limits. Typically, we work with projects once we start working for 3 to 6 months. Sometimes it can be longer, sometimes it could be up to 9 months, but it's typically less than a year. Because the idea is, I mean, in theory, even if there's not a reapplication to the Innovation Fund or a first application to the Innovation Fund, that sort of it's a package that can be delivered within, the time between receiving the notice that you were unsuccessful in your first application and submitting another application. That's where that came from. In terms of the amount that can be contributed towards each project, there is a limit as well. But I would think about it in these terms. Within that window that I just mentioned, 3 to 6 months, basically you have a decent amount of assistance from both a small technical team and a small financial team for several months. And it can be anywhere between sort of part-time to pretty much full-time. And so that's sort of the equivalent that you're receiving from the Commission, really, and then via us and via external consultants, just to give you sort of a frame of reference. Sometimes it's less than that. I mean, some applications need very specific assistance on a certain portion, and then it's less. But it can be that. It can be several months of, close to full-time consulting assistance from 2 teams.
Yeah.
And then the last question.
There is not co-payment, let's say, from your side.
No co-payment.
That is a service that is for free, and so it's quite good.
Yeah, it's just your time and energy and information that we need.
Yeah, that's actually an important point. I think Johannes has mentioned in his presentation. So your involvement is also very valuable in terms of man effort from your company. At the end, what we deliver to you also, we want to be aligned with your objectives. If it is, again, Innovation Fund grant, national funding, etc. So anything that we deliver, it's good that it's aligned. So that's why we want also your involvement on that. So it's also something to take into account before jumping into the PDA.
Thanks a lot for very detailed answers. Any other questions? Vēl jautājumi? Skatos, tie tiešsaistes arī nav mums jautājumu. Komentāri.
Any other questions, maybe online? I don't see anything online. There seems to be no other questions or comments. Then I would like to say thank you for the very detailed presentation and comments. And let us continue with the next section on topicalities and support available on the road to securing financing. And we will have someone from the Latvian representation office in Brussels who will tell about the support in providing who will provide information on the support in developing these projects.
Visi dzird un visi redz. Prieks jūs visus redzēt.
Hope everybody can see me and hear me, and I am glad to see you for the second time already. With the organizers, we found that it is either these premises, this room, shall be built bigger, so to say, even. Maybe we can refurbish it somehow this way. But anyways, the instruments are very valuable for our economy, and it is now the main task for us to get the funding. But now I will tell you about something that is under LIA, or Investment and Development Agency of Latvia, and this year we developed it by looking at the statistics. How successful are the companies from Latvia in these international tenders for receiving the funding? So we saw two things. One thing is just to increase the number of applications, because the success rate for us actually is not that bad, especially if we compare with similar countries. We just have less applications from various sizes of entrepreneurs or businesses. So, and secondly, we see that so many are almost so good enough to win, but they do not win in general in the competition in Europe. And so the instrument we have developed and we are offering you on behalf of LIA is to create the motivation, bigger motivation for the companies to apply, reduce the risks, because also preparation of the application costs, and there is no guarantee. So, and the third thing is that we also want to improve the quality of your applications, for all this time would materialize in successful applications and projects. And a little bit more about the support. So the support for development, and as I said, the aim of the program is to de-risk the process of preparation and the possibility to attract the necessary experts. This is intended just and specifically in writing projects for executive agency of Europe and or writing projects to Europe to receive the European funding, and who can apply. So all kinds of businesses, big businesses have this asterisk there, because we want to see that the big businesses actually cooperate with small and medium entities. If you do show this, then also the big businesses can receive the support. Now a little bit more about the specific support. Intensity is approximately 50%. This is the support up to 10,000 to one business. You can also take it in parts, but for one company the maximum amount is 10,000 euros. And you can add this with other, use cumulatively with other supports if you receive such in Latvia. You do have to apply in business.gov.lv. All the others, please send to European Commission. But this specific one, please apply in business.gov.lv. Now I will illustrate you the path. You need to understand how we see this flow of funds. So first, it all begins with the application submission in business.gov.lv. This is how we see that we pin this future assist to you. So all of you should apply for this particular support you can enter there the forecasted expenditure, and then this expenditure can be eligible to this specific support. Then LIA is the one to assess, make a decision, and then LIA makes a decision on granting the funding within 1 month, and then there is the contract on assistance. And then, as I said, when you do receive the positive evaluation or that you have passed one of the criteria, I will later say about the criteria, then you address LIA and you basically receive the funding. And submission of payment reimbursement is no later than within 2 months, but I will now touch upon evaluation, and then we have also assessment of the payment requests and execution of the payment itself. So this is what the process is on business.gov.lv, because even then, if you have certain expenses but you have won in the tender and you would go to LIA, unfortunately, if you have not previously submitted an application to receive the support, this will not be eligible. We have also published the list with the specific tenders. This is also what can be found on European Commission portal, Funding and Tenders portal. Just for convenience, we have also created this Excel table, and it is also available on business.gov.lv. Now, in particular, I would like to mention the criteria which you need to comply with. These are 5. One is that you have received the assessment, meaning you have won, basically a very clear criteria that you have won in the tender, and you can then address LIA within 2 months and receive the support. Another is how to receive the support. Another one is that you receive a high mark, or you pass the first stage if there are several, or you have received the step seal or seal of excellence. Then by showing this also, we see your assessment. Then it means that you're a project partner in the application. And the third option is you are a coordinator or the sole applier in Innovation Fund, but in accordance to this one, you can also go to LIA, meaning you do not wait for the results of the tender, but if you are a coordinator or the only applicant, then by applying this, after applying, you can also go to LIA and receive the support. And then there's another criteria that if you do indicate in your annual declaration that you have certain R&D expenses that are larger than 0, meaning that we want Latvian companies to also show in their statistics the R&D expenses in general. But I mean, we don't need all the criteria, but we need just one. Yes, it means that, yeah, they basically confirmed about the R&D that you probably cannot apply or win. Yes. So just once again, if you could repeat. Yes, the question was about the R&D. If the company does not win in the tender, but they have R&D expenses in their statistics here in Latvia and they have indicated them, it means that they are eligible, and after the application you can go to LIA. These are my contact details. I work for you for your benefit from Brussels, and I do support in various centralized tenders. The businesses usually also see it very valuable to have such conversations with us. If you are in Brussels, you can go to meet us also, and however you create your portfolio of the project, and step by step we can also improve this. We will definitely improve the statistics of Latvia, and it is improving as the days go by. And so follow, please, the contact information on LinkedIn and elsewhere, and let us work together. And I hope that this introductory information about the sport was valuable for you. All the information is also available on business.gov.lv on the particular instrument, and I do wish you luck.
Liels paldies, Egita.
Thank you so much, Egita. Maybe there are some questions or some more questions because we released you very quickly. But maybe there is something else from online. No, there is nothing. So I do understand now that not only in relation to the Innovation Fund, also in relation to all kinds of instruments and funds in Europe, you can then go to EGITA, to LIA, Investment and Development Agency of Latvia, and in order for you to even understand which program, which funding is suitable for you, as we also spoke at the very beginning, that it is so important to actually identify which is the closest support instrument for your specific need. So this would also increase the probability of receiving one.
Paldies, Egita, par prezentāciju.
Thank you, Egita, for the presentation. And I have one question in the slide. You said there is a certain order that you have received a positive evaluation for the project application. But who is then evaluating? Meaning, if you have received a positive on the European Commission application, or is it LIA evaluating positively your application to European Commission? No, it is European Commission, meaning the 5 criteria I said, this is all just a positive evaluation from LIA side, meaning I will not repeat all of them, but if you can prove that you have submitted an application for the project, or you're a coordinator or partners in the consortium, then you say, okay, you prove that you have step seal, or you have received a high evaluation, then, or you have R&D investment or cost in your company more than 0. We believe this is very significant criteria. I think we have another question or a comment.
So apologies for that, but just an advertisement. We've been talking about the Innovation Fund here today, but for companies which are doing more R&D, I really want to highlight something called the Clean Industrial Deal Call under Horizon. It's the first time that the European Commission has an R&D Horizon call, which is technology neutral and doesn't require you to build a consortium. So a Latvian company who wants to create a project, but it's not fully commercialized, this is up to, say, TRL of 6 or 7, can apply under this Clean Industrial Deal Call in Horizon. So just a really innovative new call that I want to make you aware of.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for a valuable comment. If not, thanks a lot, Agita. Well, I have 2 mics. I can choose which one to use, or to talk to both of them to get a better effect. So at this point, we come to the really closing session and the summary what we have heard today. And well, definitely I would like to.
Now I need to switch to Latvian. We have a bilingual event. We have also interpreters, and yes, we need to check whether they are not asleep and if they're following, and also the audience. So first of all, I would like to say thanks to our excellent speakers for their participation, for the presentations they have prepared. And the presentations are going to be available also online. You can check the details there, check the deadlines and everything. And definitely please use the opportunity to consult, to receive support, because we do remind you once again, there is such a lot of potential in Latvia. This industry in general is with such a high potential. So climate neutrality funding is what we're discussing here. And so much resources available. And thanks to the innovations in this exact direction, this would point us to this good direction in general. So we saw, once again, in SINEA contacts, we saw also after the presentations, and if you don't find something there, then please do not hesitate to go to the Ministry of Climate and Energy or to LIA colleagues. So all the people you met here today may help you, may assist you to orientate to, and also there are 2 dates. 19th of February, the first date, that is for the call. If you are targeting this date already, it means that you are probably working very seriously on the application already. And then there's the finish straight. Well, I mean, today it is important because this is almost there. And we need this experience, you need this consulting, and also contact the practitioners in the field, because after that, as you heard also, there's nothing you can add. And then 23rd of April. We have more time until then, but then again, let's see, you need to understand which of the funds is more corresponding to your initiative for you to be able to receive the maximum points. It is not just formally, we have heard about the competition and also the statistics. We are, though, very proud of those who were successful, but there are so many who have not. And so let's hope and let us wish you all the maximum numbers and marks, and this will ensure the possibility for you to enjoy not only the participation, but also the reward for winning. But then there's another thing I want to say, and this is not about the call now, but in the Ministry of Climate and Energy, we have started working with the public procurement to ensure consulting and support to businesses. During the second half of the year, this year, we're going to have such, but it is not related to this particular call here and now. So we would apply it for next year. And on that note, a very practical one. Definitely what I want to wish to Latvia. Use the opportunity, be competitive in Europe, and do not forget that if you do not use the fund paid by our taxpayers, i.e. you, that is going to be your competitors who can use this. So inactivity here is not only remaining of the status quo, but actually letting something go, like pass. And just find within yourself some motivation to work, and this passion, and cooperate. We have seen so many partners, potential partners here today, also from financial institutions and other stakeholders, and that is possibly also, you would need also the partners and good partners to understand with whom you can work together and then be successful. So if in any way we from state administration can be of help, then we are indeed here. We are ready to support you, and we are going to do so because you are our bright future. Thank you to all today. So I am now saying good luck and thank you for today.